Hello, I'm James Morrow, and if you're like me, you remember when the left hated walls more than a suburban architect selling open-plan living. Even Joe Biden ran on the promise not to build another foot of Donald Trump's wall on the American southern border. But now, everything's changed, and the Biden White House is suddenly in love with walls. What happened? Well, let's find out as we go, busting the narrative. Now, everyone knows that the situation at the U.S. southern border is completely out of control. Some 200,000 illegals are pouring through that southern border every single month. And it has gotten so bad that even the Democrats, who once upon a time not too long ago thought that border walls were racist and colonialist and probably sexist and homophobic and transphobic as well, have gotten on board. Because yes, that's right, they're doing what Donald Trump wanted to do and building the wall. Now, as you might expect, it's taken a lot of fancy footwork by the administration to come up with an excuse for what they're up to, though.
Migrants to cross somewhere else, like in Texas? What is the plan?
We are not finishing a wall. We are cleaning up the mess that the prior administration made. We are trying to save lives.
Oh, yes, that old canard. They're trying to save lives. And not only that, they're trying to fix the mess the previous administration left them.
This is what the prior administration left behind that we are now cleaning up.
But hang on a second. If Trump's wall was unfinished, how much of that was because the Democrats and the media stood in the way and campaigned against it at every opportunity they had? Well, you know what they say, if it wasn't for double standards, they wouldn't have no standards at all. So what's really going on? The American mainstream media, of course, looks increasingly Soviet these days. We've talked about this before on this program, in the sense that you have to dig deep and sometimes fill in the gaps to see what's really going on. But to their credit, NBC let the mask slip a bit this week and revealed that it all has to do with the coming midterm elections. Note this little bit of their report. Quote, Democrat U.S. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, who is seeking his party nomination next week to defend the seat in November, has pressed the Biden administration to close the gaps in the wall, calling them a challenge for officials trying to secure the border. Ha 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 ha. So there you have it. It turns out that despite what mainstream establishment progressive Democrats want in terms of open borders, voters who live in communities affected by illegal immigration want something else, namely that border to be properly policed and patrolled. Now, the midterm elections are coming up after all in November, and Democrats are nervous because they are starting to see that even in far-left cities, voters are getting tired of it, especially since governors of border states have started to ship some of these migrants to places like New York City. Here's the very progressive New York Mayor, Eric Adams.
And we can't have the historical, I believe people should be housed, but just don't house them on my block. Everyone's block is going to be impacted by this. And so we have to add our advocacy with our ability to help our neighbors. And we need everyone on board with this, because as I stated last week, our schools are going to be impacted. Our healthcare system is going to be impacted. Our infrastructure is going to be impacted. But we're willing to do our job, and we're going to do our job, and we're going to need all New Yorkers to be with us on this.
It's a scene that is being played out in other cities, too, like Washington, D.C., which had also declared itself a sanctuary city, and which now, surprise, surprise, is struggling under the burden of the progressive policies they advocated. Now, back in 2019, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokeswoman, said the border wall was racist. Now, though, it's different.
But what's the difference between Texas busing migrants to D.C. and the federal government flying migrants to, say, New York in the middle of the night in other cities?
It's very different because we're not doing it as using migrants as a political pawn.
And what have we heard from the media? That's right, crickets. Thanks for watching. I'm James Morrow, and to support this channel, please like, share, and subscribe below. And I'll see you next week for more Busting the Narrative. Bye-bye.